going to batch record today, just while I have some energy. I'm about ready to take a nap. It's that time of day. I take naps every afternoon, thereabouts. Yeah, I just wanted to, was on my mind, is how we have to be fiercely advocating for ourselves in terms of our health. I had the occasion of seeing another doctor, a new one. My neurologist had referred me to a specialist for a sleep study. Now, I do not have sleep apnea. I have a lot of things going on. Sleep apnea is not one of them. Anyway, so I went to the appointment, and I'm always a person that will always try to find how can I find common ground because I don't meet strangers. I'm super, super singular, super. I don't say reclusive anymore. That's not the word I use anymore. I now say I'm a solitarian. I'm very solo. Being that, I would always look for what is a common humanity that I can find in whomever I engage with or I encounter, however brief it is or however long it is. Now, this doctor's appointment, I'm complex as a patient. I already know that the history, and then I'm very fiercely self advocating. I work with AI in my advocacy. So when I go to a present to a doctor's appointment, I'll be bringing AI into the room. They also have AI in the room with scripts that's being transcribed. That's what everybody's saying. Although she was old school because she's typing, but but I'm very familiar with the AI's presence in the rooms with us. But some doctors are just a little miffed when I start talking about I'm bringing my AIs here too, and here's what we're going to talk about today. And I just tend to give up my phone. I tend to just hand the phone on over, so there's no miscommunication about what it is I'm trying to say or saying or not. So I have AI as my advocate, my health advocate, and I'm saying all this because on this particular go round, I was ready to have my hand the phone on over because that's the protocol that I do. But the young lady was a pleasant, and I had to catch her because at first she perceived me as I would imagine a military somebody. I don't know why. Um, I knew because I said to her as soon as I heard I have an accent, and so most people can't do this, but if I hear an accent, I know that I speak with one as well. So I can always go up to someone real comfortably and ask them, "Where's that accent from?" Because I have an accent. Now you couldn't go up to someone ask them, "Where's the accent from?" and you don't have one yourself. So I'm obviously a guest in the country as well. And so we always have that as something I could break bread with someone, break the barrier down. And so I said, I heard your accent. I said, where's that? This East European. And she says, oh, I'm from Germany. And I was then said, oh, I visited your country. I've been to Germany. And I was explaining how I've been to, I just remembered off the top of my head was Frankfurt. And she immediately quipped, oh, you're part of the military. Well, the military base is strong there. I said, oh, no, not the military, darling. No. I know we were. I said I went to Frankfurt. I was at the Black Forest. I was in Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Belgium, Italy, Katina, Italy. I was in Switzerland. She says, "Oh, you were on a family summer vacation." I said, "Exactly. We were on vacation." And then her whole countenance changed when she realized that I wasn't just part of the military. That's why I was familiar with Frankfurt, because she said how Frankfurt was such a small area in Germany. Doesn't matter. That's where I was. I visited there. Um, Belgium, Dominican Piss. Anyway, we got to talking, and I said, oh, I know two words in German. Mutti and ja. Mutti is mother, and ja is yes. And she says, oh, that's such an old word because I don't call my mom. She says, oh, mutti. I don't call my mother. I call my mom mama, mama. And she says, oh, that would be somebody over in their 50s, very old. And I was saying, yeah. And we were talking. And she went into my medical record like you just, wow. Because she finally saw herself in me and I in her. And I'm saying this to say, once you can get past some stereotypes, once you can get past some barriers, and you can just see the humanity that is you, that is me, that is us, that is we, the oneness that is all of us, we can have some decent exchanges with one another, particularly in the healthcare setting. Because what's happened here in the United, I can't speak for anywhere else, I'm just here in the US, and I'm on government insurance. I recall having private insurance for years, paying top dollar. And then was told, and then even if I even had my daughter at the time, a Blue Cross Blue Shield, I'll never forget, telling us that, oh, it's pre-existing condition. Now, you took my fucking money all every month for years, but when you get hospitalized or have some work done, they told me, oh, it's not covered by insurance because of pre-existing condition. So, I'm aging, I'm telling myself on how long ago that was. But imagine that. I said, fuck this bullshit. So what do I need to do to have cover? And I never forget. They kept telling me, make way too much money. You earn too much, you earn too much, you earn too much, you earn too much. And I was like, what the fuck do I need to be earning so that I can get some government insurance? Because I need some insurance for this. And so I'm saying it because I'm grateful to have government insurance. I really am. And when there was a period when I didn't have it, oh my God, I didn't see the doctor for years, for years. Um, but it's hard to get on. It's hard to get off. And then you just have to make a consciousness about it because I'm like, I don't need to be, because you always got to certify this, your income is this, that, and the other. Unfortunately, for me, it's just, the reality is that my income has significantly dropped, significantly over the last couple of years, significantly. And so I'm grateful to be able to get back onto government insurance. But normally, when you have government insurance, the doctors treat you another way. Because I was able to talk to her in German, just about Mutti and Ja, and share some different experiences. So she even talked about the being retired and stuff. And she says, well, what do you do? I just have an investment right now. I create. I make large pieces. I do art. Now she's a paint. I said, no, I don't paint. So I described it. She says, you're not an artist. You're a sculptor. You sculpt. If you're making pieces 5 feet, 4 feet, that's a sculptor. Then we had a conversation in French. It was just the wildest experience. It was just wild. Um, and then she noted that I don't take prescriptions. She noticed that. She noticed, yes, you seem to take a whole lot of natural botanicals. I see that's what you hear. She said, but those can interact with pharmaceuticals. I said, if you continue to look, you notice I don't take any pharmaceuticals. Now, the doctor, one of the neurosurgeons, he had tried to put me on a statin. I think Crestor, 40 milligrams. Now, my LDL cholesterol level is extremely high. It is that. My triglyceride is normal range, my HDL is normal range, but it's hereditary. And I had brought it down 100 points just by taking red rice yeast and orange bergamot as a supplement. So it doesn't happen overnight. It takes months. I've been taking this for months, 6 months, and it's dropped my cholesterol completely, total as well as the LDL, the bed level. And so she said, well, I know that you're not going to take that. I said, no, I won't. I won't take a statin. I'm not going to be sitting up here with all these kind of side effects. And I'm not opposed to pharmaceuticals. What I am is I'm going to do lifestyle first. I'm going to do plant-based, preferably. And I will do pharmaceutical as a last resort. I see that as something more acute, most so than for something that's ongoing. And I do have this philosophy. Life is meant to live well. How I feel in all the dots and dashes all in between life, that's on me. When it's my time to transition, it's my time, baby. You're not going to be able to prolong that, and I won't. So let me just honor my body temple. That's what I call her. She's my body temple. And so I honor her with how I rest, what thoughts I entertain, what food I put into my mouth or not. And certainly some of this pharmaceutical bullshit, I'm just not taking that fucking shit. I'm like, no. I remember the neurologist, he had discussed with me 20 milligrams, but yet he made a prescription for 40 milligrams. So when I went to my chart and I questioned that, did you make a mistake? He's like, well, no. And he didn't. His nurse or whatever, the assistant responded, well, he thought because it's still so very high. I'm like, oh, so you just going to say one thing to me and then going to order something else? Oh, hell no, I'm not taking up none of that fucking shit. And so then this doctor here, she says, well, we could put you on something that is not a statin to lower your LDL. Your body would just not absorb cholesterol. She says, my patients have good success with it. And she went on to this about name ZT or ZT or what. She said, oh, it's so not intuitive. It's so just not an intuitive name. But I think you would have a lot of success with it. So I said, well, I'm not. Then she says, now, why we? She couldn't understand why. She's looking on my chart. She says, you've got all kinds. I said, yeah, I know. And so she thought she read about how my stomach had perforated, and she thought somehow that it was related to, when I had the gastric bypass, that they must have nicked a nerve or something. I said, no. She's like, I can see your stomach perforated in March of 2011. I said, yeah, exactly a year, almost a year to the date of me having had the gastric bypass. But it wasn't from a nick or nothing. I developed marginal ulcers. Her eyes lit up. She's like, wow, you have a marginal. I said, I'm prone to have them. And we had to have the vulgotomy procedure because I was producing still too much acid. So we had this long conversation. And she actually she understood about lipedema. She made sure she charted that correctly. She said, well, how long have you noticed lipedema? For about 10 years or so. I said, no, probably in the last 5 years that I've really noticed active lipedema. Like, I mean, my body shape has completely changed. And then she's explaining how, that would help, like my ligaments would be impacted by that. I said, yeah, that's why I'm super limber. Like at my age, weight, and size, as I demonstrated a couple of weeks ago, I can still stand up and lay my hands flat on the floor without bending my legs. And I can sit there and hold the position. It doesn't even hurt. But that would be part of the ligament stretching that I have. And that's a characteristic of a person who has lipedema. Not lymphedema, but lipedema is characteristic of very limber. And the same limberness messes up with this damn ligament in my neck, which has my head the way that it is. So she's super flexible, not in a good way, but the ligament, when I broke my neck, the ligament didn't get torn, it got overstretched. And anyone knows, once your ligament stretches, it doesn't bounce back. And so that ligament is meant to, that part that got stretched, it holds your neck up, holds your head up. So my head always feels heavy, feels wobbly, like I just want to like I'm comfortable just laying it down like this. This is my thing. Can't walk around with your head all down looking all stupid. It is what it is. I have to deal with that. Anyway, so it's back to this little lady, just as sweet as a pie. She was sweet as pie. And I was sitting there and I was like, I was just trying to remember who was my auntie boy's name. I said, oh, I remember. Her name was 𝐅𝐢𝐠𝐻𝐿𝐼. And she little bit, oh, you would say 𝐢𝐠𝐿𝐼. 𝐢𝐠𝐿𝐼. I said, okay, 𝐢𝐠𝐿𝐼, but I remember we called her Ursula. She said, oh, that's 𝐢𝐠𝐿𝐼. And I told my cousin Gabriella, I said, oh, such old names. They would have to be over 50. I said, yeah, Gabriella's my age. She would be in her 60s. And obviously her mother would have been older because it was her mother. And so we just had this whole big conversation. And by the time she be finished, she gave me a big hug. She went from being standoff aloof and just casting me as this military somebody, African American. And I'm not that. No shame. I'm just not, that's not who I am. So I don't like to be pushed. I remember a college friend of mine. She'd been out here in the United States since 1980, so it's been a very long time. And she had a whole debate with me about me being African American because I've been out for so long. I'm like, what? I said, there are black people all over the world, darling. Black and brown people, we're all over the world. We're not just persons of African and American heritage. I have no American heritage. None. My daughter's the first generation American, born here. None of her ties are here. None of mine. I said, there are black people in Africa. Would you call them African American? Because they've been here a long time. If someone's from Brazil, or someone's from Portugal, or someone's from Trinidad, Tobago, wherever, Jamaica, they've been here for a very long time, and you're going to tell them they're African American, I think people are highly offended because we identify through our culture. I'm just not African American. That's a joke to me, funny as shit. Culture's different. I'm culturated differently, as are they from me. And it's not a case of all black people think that, like, it's such a broad brush. It's ignorant, really ignorant in its literal sense, lacking in knowledge. Like, just no. One thing we all have in common is the humanity that is us, the humanness that is one of us, that is each of us, that is you, that is me. The oneness, as I say, the oneness of God. I say God because you understand God. Um, that's the humanity that is us. That's where we're all common, and we have that in common. But the culture, no, it's very different, and so we shouldn't other one another in our differences. I think we ought to embrace, and where we can, celebrate them. How about that? Where we can, celebrate them. It's just kind of moments I have laying off in this damn bed thinking about. It's just like, why people just. We all bring our own biases, we all bring our own prejudices. We do. So I think it becomes important that we are more aware of that, uh, and just acknowledge one another. Yeah, acknowledge one another as we are and for who we are, not what you imagine us to be, not what you want us to be. And that way you won't be so disappointed. Anyway, I'm just having a random moment. All right? Okay.